Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Westworld, Season 1, Episode 1. It's called The Original, which is a little bit ironic because there was a movie first, but that's fine. Obviously, Season 1, Episode 1, and since it's a first episode, we will be starting off spoiler free, and we will go into spoilers about halfway through, and we will give you warning before we start talking about spoiler things. So, we were looking forward to this. This was high priority viewing for this season. Were you satisfied with this first episode?
Absolutely, I will say, move over, Quarry. There's a new best show on TV.
Oh right, you're ready to jump straight to that.
Oh, I am.
You are. I don't know if I'm quite ready to jump both feet in to that statement, but I liked it a lot. It's doing a lot of things that I love. I love stories about artificial intelligence becoming more human, and it's funny how this reminds me a lot of Dollhouse in a lot of ways.
I know what you mean.
Obviously, it's a lot more. There's more nudity and there's swearing, and what's going on is a lot more
It's
in
the
your
core, the
face.
core idea, though, isn't it?
Yeah, especially since I'm pretty sure the main character and the one we sympathise with the most is one of the androids. I guess we'll call them. I don't know if they give us a specific name that they use for them yet.
Uh, Hosts.
Hosts. Ah, yeah, I suppose. I was thinking what type of robot they were rather than.
All right. Well, they just refer to them as the hosts, though,
Yeah,
don't they? So,
yeah. Because obviously, if you're unfamiliar with the premise of this show, and indeed the movie, and indeed the book that it's based on by Michael Crichton, which by the way is very similar to Jurassic Park in a lot of ways as well.
he likes his dodgy theme parks, doesn't he?
Yeah. Especially in this, whenever they said the park when they were speaking about it, I was like, this is just reminding me of Jurassic Park now. Like, it really.
So, I think he had like a bad experience at Disney World or something, and it's like his mind just spiraled.
Yeah, very, very possibly. But yeah, so we have the hosts and the character who we're going to sympathise with the most, played by Evan Rachel Wood, whose name's Dolores. She seems like she will likely be the one that we sympathise with going forward, and I think that's the most interesting thing the show can do. Not that I won't sympathise with any of the actual humans. I mean, I'm sure there'll be that going on as well, but having her be the one that we sympathise with puts us in the mind of the one who's been oppressed, and it gives
It's
us the reason to want her to fight because as much as she's not real, it's playing with the idea that over time they almost grow humanity, they develop humanity because
yeah.
like if something, and it's the classic AI argument is if something is intelligent enough to learn, then it can learn to have feelings, and once it has feelings, it's wrong to make it do the things that we make it do, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Uh, but at the same time, you completely get why the humans don't think there's a problem with it because, as far as they're concerned, these are just
Robots,
yeah,
basically.
they're toasters and kettles and
Yeah. It is interesting though, because obviously most AI films focus on the humans and their interactions with the AI.
most. Yeah,
Most, not all,
yeah,
but
most.
most. But this is taking the approach of no, we're going to focus all on the AIs and how they live more.
Uh, I guess there's not even any plot elements that I would compare to it, but I did get a slight feeling of Blade Runner at times.
Okay.
The way Anthony Hopkins, he's the head of this. He was there originally when they started doing all this, and he's the one who's designed them and all that. His character's Robert Ford. They just refer to him as Ford. He just the way he talked about them, the way his attitude, it reminded me a little bit of the creator of the replicants in Blade
Mm,
Runner. I don't know. I was getting some of those vibes and the feeling of it. Uh,
makes sense.
but obviously, we're not going to talk about plot details here because we want to save that for spoilers, especially since there was a couple of reveals in this episode. One of which is relatively early on, but I think it's worth saving for spoilers. So, in more broad terms, the show is gorgeous. It looks very expensive. There was some shots of these like canyons and stuff, and like these like flying over the head shots where. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure a lot of it's CG. I'm sure there's a lot of that going on, but it doesn't really matter. It looks
I
gorgeous.
don't know. A lot of it's probably location shots. I mean, HBO have the money. They throw it around. I mean, look at
Oh,
Game of
true.
Thrones. That's all location.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I'm sure all their flyover shots of these canyon areas. I'm sure they went out for one day, shot 1,000 of them, and they're just going to use them throughout the course of the
Yeah.
show. because that's how they typically do these things, because it's cheaper than try to do a batch for every episode as you go. But I'm sure it's touched up with CG and stuff and all the other things that they do. Obviously added elements will be in there and whatever. Especially since they need to like remove like further away in the landscape so that it feels like it is just in this one sort of dome, if you will.
Yeah.
But no, it looks gorgeous. It feels so. There was times when I was like, man, this is a TV show now. Like that, 10, 15 years ago, this was not a TV show.
Nah, there is some serious dollar being thrown at this.
There is. They're expecting this to be huge, and I think it will be huge. I feel like it will tickle an itch.
They've marketed it so heavily as well. Like, it's really been pushed.
Yeah.
I've been getting adverts for the cinema for about 2 months.
Yeah. So that's great. The acting is pretty phenomenal across the board, and I think it's a real mix of acting as well, because you've got the human actors, but then you also have the hosts themselves. You have this thing where they're acting completely in character because they're programmed to play a role.
Mm.
But then there's these other moments when like they're doing maintenance, and you see them sort of in this like suspended mode, where
where they essentially switch off.
Yeah, they switch off, but they still respond. They still like give basic responses for maintenance reasons and for checking up on them and stuff. And there's a very like, asking them to drop the accent or asking them to answer these questions about their beliefs of their own reality and all that to check that everything's still going okay. And just the difference in responses, or I don't think it's a plot spoiler to say that there's hints of it going wrong, because that's kind of the whole point of the show.
That's kind of the whole point of the show, yeah.
And when that does happen, I thought the way the acting shifted was also very good. They've put a lot of thought and effort into this.
Yeah, the hosts are doing a fantastic job of just switching immediately, and it's just a complete distinct snap as soon as it's like on command, obviously, as it's supposed to be, but it's so smoothly transitioned as well by the actors.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually finished the premise of the show. So yes, it's like a theme park essentially, where it's filled with all of these androids or robots, whatever we call them. They're called hosts, and people pay to go there and live out their cowboy fantasy. And when they're there, the hosts cannot hurt them. Like if they try and fire one of their guns at a visitor, it just won't work. It'll be like a blank essentially. And however, the humans, the visitors, can kill the hosts. They can have sex with the hosts. They can be heroes. They can be complete villains. They can do whatever they want. The whole point is you can go and live out your
Wild West fantasy.
Your Wild West fantasy. In the movie, it was one of 4 worlds, which is interesting. I'd be wondering if that's maybe what a season 2 would be, is if they would shift over to, because I think in the movie it was Westworld, obviously, medieval world. I think there was like a Japanese one, maybe Viking. I can't remember. One was definitely medieval, but the other 2 are escaping me.
It gives them easy multiple season materials if they exhaust this story in one season.
Yeah, I mean the way it worked in the movie is they actually went into one of the other ones at one point when everything was going down. But obviously this is going to play over a much longer period, and it's different. I mean, because Evan Rachel Wood's character, Dolores, she wasn't in the movie, at least not to my knowledge. She wasn't the main character, certainly. We were following one specific, android, and even then, he wasn't really the main character. It was the humans that were the main character, and it was very Jurassic Park. Things go wrong, and they're attacking us, and we need to, deal with it. Gorgeous, fantastic use of music. I'm sure you want to mention the
player piano covers.
Well, I was going to say the Painted Black orchestral.
Yeah, but it starts on the player piano. Like
okay.
That's what brings it in, and it does Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun earlier on as well.
Because I didn't recognise that one, but obviously it's less famous than Painted Black. But
I'm a big Soundgarden fan.
They play around with this whole idea of the piano, and the idea that it's like one of those pianos that plays itself. It's this automatic.
Yeah. Player pianos. That's what they're called.
Is that what they're called? Well, I didn't know that.
No, that's what I said. The player piano.
But like they play with this idea, because the idea that that's like almost like the ancient version of what they are, and that's in the opening title sequence, which is a very elaborate, very very cool opening title sequence that shows them like making more of the people, and as the piano plays, and we see the keys playing itself. It's all very, very stylistic and cinematic. But no, it's a fantastic first episode. Raises a lot of interesting questions, and even though we can see a lot of similar themes of what we're used to from these types of stories, it certainly looks like it's going to be like high caliber TV, where it's going to do things very well.
There's nothing wrong with telling the same stories in terms of thematics as things that have been done 100 times. As long as you do it well, I'm down for seeing it again.
And that said, there is some mystery elements where I have no idea where it's going with things.
That is true.
And that will be very interesting to watch play out. And of course, I mean, we mentioned the acting, but we should mention that some of the names in this are quite big. Anthony Hopkins, Ed Harris, these are people that I know from movies and really like in movies.
Jeffrey Wright, yeah, James Marsden.
James Marsden's hardly on the same level as Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris.
All I mean is they're all movie actors.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, all of them.
Even Thandie Newton,
Yeah.
I think of her as a movie actress first. But no, it's very, very good. And I don't... Is there anything else you think we can say without getting into spoilers?
Why haven't you watched this already?
Yeah, go watch it. Do that.
And then come back for the rest of this, obviously.
Yeah, and come back. Yeah, absolutely. Alright, let's get into some spoilers. Full spoilers for episode 1 of Westworld follow. So they played a neat little twist on us in the first 10 minutes.
Aye, they did.
Because they have James Marsden come in with the other... What do they call them? Newcomers.
Newcomers, yeah.
Yeah, which are the visitors. That's what the hosts know them as. And we play it as if he's going to be our main character. And as if he's one of these newcomers. And we see him, see this girl across, and he goes over to her, after turning down the hookers, because that's obviously a big thing in the Wild West. There's the whorehouse above the bar, the saloon. And they talk like they already know each other, and she's happy he came back. And it's at this point where I'm thinking, well, this is actually really interesting. Like, I'm already thinking they're doing something cool with this. They're having this idea that he's fallen in love with one of these androids.
And he keeps coming back for her.
And he keeps coming back. Now, of course, they ended up twisting it, but that was such a cool, convincing, and interesting idea that I was sold. I was like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
I'm into this. This is a great thing to explore. And then you have, he gets back to the house with her, and Ed Harris comes sauntering in, all dressed in black. He is credited as simply the Man in Black. He doesn't have a title or a name. And
it's very Western, isn't it?
It's very Western. It's also very, I believe, as a character in Dark Tower as well, that's just referred to as the Man in Black.
Yeah, but that's also a Western, essentially. So.
Science. Well, they're both science fiction Westerns, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, and they throw this little twist on is that Ed Harris is the visitor, and he's there to play the villain, which they set up really nicely in the train sequence, because one of the other guys was like talking and saying, oh, one time I came and I was like a pure hero, the other time I came and I was like, I played the outright villain.
Because he's the thing, he's like, oh, the first time I came with my family, we were all good, we went on the trips, saw the sights, and then he's like, I came again, last time I came, I came on my own, 2 weeks, pure villain. Yeah,
and Ed Harris like taunts him, and James Marsden can't shoot him. Teddy's his name. I should be using the character names, but it's hard when I know them all so well as their actors. But he tries to shoot him and he can't, and Ed Harris eventually shoots him after he's like trying to take the lorries away, and it sets up the idea that it flips on what we thought was going on before, because this reveals that she and the other hosts can't remember the visitors. Every day they get purged and their memories are wiped, and they can't remember this. And Ed Harris says that he's done this before. He's like,
he says he's been coming for 30 years.
Yeah, and he's like, you know what? I like it when you put up a fight. He's basically having a rape fantasy that he's living out, every year or whatever, however often he comes. So, nice little twist. But since we're on Ed Harris and the Man in Black, let's talk about him, because we see him a few times throughout the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I'm not convinced he's the villain we're supposed to be believing.
Oh no, I'm not thinking full-on villain, but I'm intrigued because he got very philosophical when he was killing the one of the androids. It was an Indian, or sorry, Native American, I should say, and he's spouting all this thing about looking for, like, everyone's here to play a game. I'm here for the deeper game. I'm here for something else that they're not looking for. Like, and I'm like, what's he talking about exactly? Like, what is he looking for? Like,
that's the question, isn't it? It's like, what is there that we don't know about?
And honestly, after one episode, I have no guesses. I have nothing to go on to.
No, because obviously he skins the guy, and scalps him, and we get a map on the inside. It looks kind of like a map.
Yeah, and is this just like this like? Because what I really liked about when the engineer guys were talking, or the coders and the programmers, Jeffrey Wright's character and them, I liked how they talked about this almost as if it was like Dungeons and Dragons or a role playing game, where there's quests and they can do the quests, but they can mess them up. Just like if you're playing a role playing game, you can mess up the dungeon master's plans by going off track and going off wild and asking to do different things and whatever. And it felt kind of like that because they even mentioned that the guests mess up the quests all the time.
Yeah. But it leads to the question, who put in this map?
Yeah, is this one of the quests? Is this something that's been buried so deep? And because this guy's been coming for 30 years...
Has he discovered... Is this like like one of the original quests or thing that no one's hidden, like an Easter egg almost?
Or is that too simple? Is that too face value? Is he actually looking for something that even the programmers don't know about?
Yeah, it's something maybe only Anthony Hopkins' character knows, because obviously he's like the creator of all this.
Yeah. So, no, it was a lot of fascinating stuff with him. Very intrigued to see where that will go. Of course, we see that Dolores, we see her day repeating. And we actually open and close with her being asked the questions that they asked to check if they're still, in the right place, that they're not malfunctioning, they're not... Because obviously over the episode we see different people malfunction. We see that guy who, kills people and pours milk on them. He, malfunctions and they come in. And again, another nice moment where they pause him. And he just, stops.
Yeah, I love how they just freeze.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's really cool stuff. But they come in, they try to fix him, and then Dolores' dad starts messing up, and because he finds the picture of obviously a visitor's dropped. She's brought a photo of her standing in what looks like Times Square, and obviously this guy's programmed to be in the Old West, and he's like, what is this?
Understand. Yeah.
I don't understand. And after he malfunctions, and they think they've solved it, although I'm pretty sure this is just a red herring. They think they've solved it. What's happening here is that this new update that they've put in 10% of the hosts for them to sort of have instinctful memories.
Yeah, it's like they can access their previous days' memories as a subconscious almost.
Yeah, so they'll have little tics and things like that they wouldn't have had otherwise that makes them seem more real. But what it seems to have done to some of them, and this one in particular, is that he's remembering... He used to be using a different role. He was programmed for a murder mystery at one point, and the character was quoting Shakespeare. But of course, the line he quotes from Shakespeare sounds very contextual as to what's going on. He's talking about meeting his maker and all that kind of thing. So it's played like that, but then Anthony Hopkins says, oh no, this is Shakespeare. This was his first thing. He's just revisiting his old work. That's all this is. It's memories.
But is it?
Well, that's the thing. We're told that they can't harm any living thing, and we see it. Not obviously humans, because they don't want them killing the visitors, obviously. But we see at one point a fly lands on one of them, and that's what causes this sheriff character to malfunction. And of course, the episode ends with Dolores. She's going through her morning routine. We see her getting up like we have done 5 times at this point, going out to the porch. Her dad asks her the same question, but of course he's played by someone else now, because the original host is now been put in cold storage, which we've also seen and looks really creepy and very, all these naked bodies just look high. By the way, there's a lot of nudity in this from the hosts, because they're all getting made and being naked all the time. But so a fly lands on her neck and everything's going normal, and then she snaps.
She swats it.
Yeah, she swats the fly, and that's what we cut to credits on. And it's that was the perfect thing to end. It was just enough, not something super huge that they should all notice, not something that's going to send alarms blaring, but just
that's
something.
The thing. It's swatting a fly. It's such a basic thing. It's something that if you do it in front of one of the newcomers, no one would think anything of it.
Yeah,
they won't realise that's completely against her entire core programming, and everything is just ruined.
Yeah, so and it makes me wonder, is she will she become villainous? Will she become more heroic? Will it be a sympathetic journey where we want her to succeed and break out and have a life? Or will it be a case of she turns into this, killing machine?
This raised my question. Predictions. How long till a visitor dies?
Which is obviously going to happen. That has to be...
Yeah.
That will be the big end of episode thing that happens at some point in this season.
I think it'll be early. I think episode 3.
I think it'll be relatively early because I think that's what gets the plot boiling. But at the same time, if it happens too early, then they just shut down the park. So I feel like whenever it does happen,
It's going to be played as an accident, though.
yeah, it could either be played as an accident, or when that starts happening, it almost immediately goes into full, like, we're all trapped in here for whatever reason, you know? Maybe there's more of a plan at foot. But you're probably right, the first time's probably going to be an accident. It's probably not going to be her. It'll be one of the other ones just malfunctioning. And
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be like a direct malfunction. It'll be something like one of them tries to. I know what it'll be.
oh, go on.
Right, well, I don't know, but this is what I'd do. One of them, you know, where they shoot the guns at them, and obviously because they're hosts, it doesn't work. It kind of just shoots like a blank, right?
Yeah.
One of them will accidentally develop enough sentience that when they shoot the gun, because they use the same guns, and it's depending on whether the humans or the robots shoot, they'll have developed enough sentience that the guns won't recognize them as a robot, and it'll kill one of them.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see that being the case.
That's where I'd go with it.
Did they definitely say they're using the same guns?
I'm sure one of them picks up the gun that it was. I think it might have been the Man in Black, where he picks up one of the guns and shoots them.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, that could be the case. Or I mean, obviously they could just kill him a different way, like strangle,
sure.
drown, whatever. Whatever tickles your fancy and your killing mood.
But I like more the idea that they could even be watching it and they'll be like, it's fine.
I know. I get it. Yeah. I think it's a good idea. I think that might be the way it goes. As for what else will happen, I know obviously we meet some of the characters behind the scenes, but we've talked about Anthony Hopkins, Jeffrey Wright's character Bernie. He's like the lead programmer right now, and he's sort of butting heads with the head of the security of the place, who deals with when there's a malfunction, she sends in her team, and then there's this obnoxious British guy who is kind of making power plays. He wants to rise to the top and get the old man out, so he can be the head of the whole thing. In fact, one of
the idea that he wants to roll back everything a bit.
Yeah, he wants to take charge and roll back.
Yeah,
he wants to roll things back. But one of the funniest moments of this episode, not that it's an overly funny show, but he goes on about how they do the heist that they usually do with this outlaw character, who normally does this later in the week, but they're doing it early because they want to have an excuse for the visitors why all these all these droids that have had the update are getting pulled out, so they can fix them and check them and make sure they're not malfunctioning. And he goes on about how, oh, by the way, I rewrote the big speech he gives after he does the safe thing in the saloon. Wait till you hear it. And he's he's bragging about it, and then it gets to that moment, he starts to give his speech, and one of the visitors shoots him in the neck and kills him dead. And I love the look on the head of security's face. She just looks so happy that she didn't have to hear it. It's really funny. Which is, by the way, is the scene where the Painted Black plays.
Also, she has a really interesting scene early on with the hooker that's been in maintenance, and it's the first one we're seeing about the tick with the finger.
You're thinking of a different character.
Oh yes, I am. Sorry.
You're thinking of the younger woman.
Yeah, the younger one
who works with Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah, but that was a really interesting scene as well.
Oh, it was, yeah, because she goes in for a kiss because she's tempted. She wants to know how it feels, because presumably working here, she's maybe not actually visited the park.
Yeah.
And she gets tempted.
I'm wondering if it's more than that. Is it just a temptation, or is it something that this has been going on and she's developed something with this particular one?
You could be right, but I took it as because of the tick and because she felt more lifelike. That's what prompted the motivation, the desire to see what it was like, because she feels more human now because of that little tick.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, but be interested to see where that leads going forward.
And I think the main point of that scene, more than anything else, because that was quite early on in the episode, it was to show just how the blurred the lines are now.
Yeah.
Just how far along these things are. Because what I like about when we go down and meet Ford for the first time, which is Anthony Hopkins' character, he's talking to this old model, this old gunslinger, who apparently you could easily tell he's fake after, if you try to shake his hand or you say the wrong thing, he'll go off script. It was very primitive, and I like that idea of history, that there's these old models who aren't as good.
Which brings the question, what's so special about Dolores? Because obviously, I think he said that that bartender guy was the second host that they had.
Mm.
And obviously, he's very old and hasn't been updated. Why did they retire him and not Dolores? Because she was the first. What's so special about her that they keep her fresh?
Did they say he was the second host?
I thought he was the second.
I don't think they specified that she was the first. They specified that in active duty, she was the oldest, not the first. I think there's a difference.
Do you think?
Yeah, I really... Because they had the old models that were, like, obviously fake, so she's not one of them.
No, but I just got the impression that she'd just been updated and updated more and more.
Alright, okay.
Because when he says, like, oh, you look at her, she looks brand new, but she's actually the oldest.
Okay.
I got the impression that she was the first one.
Alright, I didn't get that impression. I just took it as she's currently... Because I took it that she had to be, you know, one of the modern style models that could do all the things the ones that we have now could do. You could be right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a big deal one way or the other, because either way she's the oldest.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, I feel like maybe because of the way the Man in Black interacts with her, like, every time, maybe that's why, like, something changed. Like, those experiences are so, like, because maybe he always rapes her, and maybe the sheer, like, veracity of that experience, like, eventually started to break through.
Yeah. I also think it is with her being, either way, the oldest in active service is going to be interesting. So obviously, that means she has the most memories to fall back on.
Yeah, that's true.
So she's got the most to come through and to change things. So that could be really interesting.
Yeah, so that's a great show.
Really is.
Really quality first episode. It's 10-episode first season, so hopefully it does well and we get more, because I assume there's a game plan. Because I've not finished it yet. I'm only halfway through the third season of Person of Interest, but that is from Jonathan Nolan, who's also showrunning this. And that show, from what I've seen of it so far, has done nothing but get better as it went along. And it became clear in season 2 that there was an overall game plan that was there for the entire show. You know, like...
Yeah.
And I'm thinking this has probably got a similar thing. This is even more out there to begin with, but I do wonder, like, what is the long-term plans here? Because, you know, like, her becoming more sentient and becoming more human-like, to a point
That's a short-term plan, isn't it?
it's a season 1 story, you know, like,
Yeah.
maybe not completely, maybe she won't be completely human by the end of the season, but she will be human enough that we have seen an arc, and I wonder what the season 2 would be. Where does this go next?
Because obviously, like say that we've got the other worlds, but what do you do with them beyond just showing off that they exist? Because, I mean, one thing I would speculate is obviously if she becomes human, what if she travels through the worlds and is on like a freedom quest to free the others, sort of thing?
Hey, to be fair, that's assuming these other worlds exist in this show.
It is. But like, I'm just thinking like her going on a quest to free the others, essentially.
That said, Anthony Hopkins saying that he used to be a murder mystery character does imply that if there's not other worlds, then they certainly get used for other attractions somewhere. Like, you know, the idea that it's one of these, like, you know, murder mystery mansions you go for a weekend kind of thing. Like, it at least implies they've been used in things like that at some point.
Well, I don't know. You could still have that in Westworld.
You could. It didn't sound like it, though. Quoting Shakespeare?
It's a good point.
I mean, I know Shakespeare's, like, really old, but still, it's not.
Well, yeah, but like obviously, but it's not something you expect to hear in the Old West, is it?
Yeah, a gunslinger, you know, in the Old West, like a sheriff quoting Shakespeare. It doesn't really add up.
No, it doesn't. You're right.
Which makes sense. Like, they wouldn't have always been used for this. And they also, the British guy and the head of security have that conversation outside when he tries to make his little power play, where they talk about how the visitors have expect one thing from the park, the people running it expect another thing. Like, what is their purpose? It's not just to have a theme park that makes money. That they're doing something else with it. Like, they're researching something. They're looking for something else. Maybe that's what the Man in Black's also looking for. Maybe he's looking for that deeper meaning. You know, maybe those two goals are connected.
Yeah, it's got to tie in somehow.
Yeah,
because he seems very disconnected from everything else at the minute.
It feels like, yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if he ends up being someone who was once on the other side of that wall. Like, he was once someone who ran something like this. If it wasn't this
Maybe
place.
back at the start.
Yeah. Because he is old enough. Like, he's old enough to be...
He could be, like, I wouldn't put it past him being like, he was like almost a co-creator with Ford.
Possibly, yeah.
But, like, you know, like, forgotten about into obscurity when he was pushed out almost. And now with this him trying to get back at Ford by exposing whatever this secret is.
Maybe. I mean, obviously, this is all just complete guesswork. We have very little to go on as to what the connection could be, but I have this sneaking suspicion that he is not just a random guy. He's in some way, if he is looking for something that's not just a part of the game, like I think he is, then I think it's because he already has some knowledge from something else. So,
Yeah, that would make sense.
but no, we're getting into some seriously just random guesswork now, so we will wrap this up and we'll save future speculation for after some more evidence has been presented to us. But
Aye.
the fact that we have talked this long and speculated already based on, a 6 to 8 minute without commercial, well, not those commercials on HBO anyway, but you know what I mean? Like, the fact that we've speculated this much on one episode is a testament to how interesting this will probably be to discuss as we go forward.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it could go off the rails and, fail, but I don't see that happening.
Doesn't feel like it. I have faith in. The guy's last name is Nolan, and Nolan we trust.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, that's the episode 1 of Westworld, guys. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Of course, we'll be back with episode 2 next week. And get us on Twitter at @mailed_fuzz. We're still uploading Luke Cage reviews for the next day or two. So look forward to those if you're into that stuff. Otherwise, guys, keep watching TV. We'll see you next time.